Was I'm lock and loaded this morning. Wow. This video, I have a feeling, is going to be important. If you're into the advice I give, I think you're going to like this. And at the same time, a lot of you are not going to understand what the hell I'm talking about because it's going to seem too simple in a way. You might have to watch it twice. You might have to watch it 3 times. You might not. I try to tell it like it is with these videos on this YouTube channel. Now, what that means is so subjective that it's like whatever, but I can tell you what that means for me is that one reason I'm so into the law of attraction and its principles and explaining it to people is that, like, I'm not like a normal person, in terms of our culture. I've always had basically like a very much like a bum mentality. There's very, very little I've wanted to do with my life. I've never felt like I fit in. I've always felt like my sensibilities have been different than a lot of people in terms of just, I'm a very like, I don't know, like I'm into just kind of hanging back and being one with nature, and being one with the environment that I'm in. And I don't have a lot to necessarily say, and that what I'm getting at is that all my sensibilities, my life experiences have made it like difficult for me to fit in. And that doesn't mean, ironically, I've always had very good social skills and I've been able to fit in if I've wanted to. But it's always seemed hard for me to fit in. And the reason that I really respect a lot of these law of attraction teachers and teachings is because it's helped me fit in a lot more culturally and socially than I thought possible before in terms of my life and living. Like, I mean, listen, if my neighbors see me, they think I'm just we're just a cookie cutter family in a nice suburban neighborhood in America. And that seems fucking unbelievable to me because I am not a cookie cutter person. Now, is that what you want with your life? Who the hell knows, what I'm saying is that a lot of the things I've attained with the help of the law of attraction, which is, a very good family life, a very flexible schedule, work I love, living in a very nice community, having, the social contact that we like, but not too much social contact. A lot of this stuff I attribute having success with it to applying these law of attraction principles. And I think that so much of these positive transformations that I've had over the last 7 or 8 years have been subtle and gradual, which is, the way that transformation usually happens, in my opinion. And I've wasted so much of my time before I got into the law of attraction and since I've gotten into the law of attraction not trusting the process and doing what I knew I needed to do that worked. I made a video recently about, LOA techniques that I've relied on. And I also talked about like talking out loud as techniques that I relied on that work for me. There's really not that many techniques that most of us have that we know work for us. You really only need one technique that works for you. And it's best to kind of like, not pay too much attention to everything else. And I say that because like I realize something that's really held me back is just not being honest with myself about my priorities. And I'm very good at prioritizing, but I noticed that when I don't keep track almost daily of my behavior in terms of, what I would like to see happen, how I want to live my life, how I want to be this, healthy, peaceful, generous person and great family member and, helpful to people who are interested in these concepts, if I don't keep track of that stuff and touch how I feel on the inside in regard to it, it's very easy to get distracted and overwhelmed. And, I've probably noticed this more over the last couple months in terms of just, my wife was very pregnant. It wasn't the easiest of pregnancies, and now we have a 2-month-old in the house to go along with our, almost 5-year-old. So there's a lot of action. So it's very easy for me to become overwhelmed. And it's much easier for me to handle the overwhelm when I use the techniques that I rely on: talking out loud, assuming the best, relaxing into the now, but also just daily checking in with like my behavior for that day. And if it's aligned with what I deeply want in life, which, boils down to several things, but really can be boiled down basically to like peace, the abundance of the moment right now, what we always talk about. The reason I always talk about it is because that's what I want to recognize. And, if I recognize that, I know everything else comes out good from there, right? And so keeping track of myself, keeping myself honest in regards to that is very important. And someone who's really helped me, and I've mentioned him before, I mentioned him, I think, in yesterday's video, is W. Clement Stone and his success indicator. And, I heard of W. Clement Stone when I, first got into self-improvement, and, when I first heard of like, Think and Grow Rich. I think I heard W. Clement Stone's name shortly thereafter because he was associated with Napoleon Hill. But it wasn't until early 2021 that I actually like read W. Clement Stone. And I just want to let you know that if you are struggling with like law of attraction information, or it just seems not to be working as well as you would like it to, or you seem to lack focus, or like what you want doesn't seem to be showing up in the way you want, or more accurately, like what you don't feel the way you want to feel, right? In terms of, when you go through your day. If that's the case, instead of turning to Neville, instead of trying to assume the feeling and having it being very, very difficult, I think you would be much better off turning to W. Clement Stone. W. Clement Stone tells you how to get stuff done. And he is way, way, way far out there. Like his concepts are way far out there. And the success indicator, that is a technique I always fall back on since I discovered it. But I have to admit, I only discovered it in early 2021. I'd obviously heard of monitoring your behavior every day, right? And like marking your behavior, like, did I do this well? Did I not do it well? I said, I think in yesterday's video, like, you can have a scale of 1 to 10, like in terms of like how relaxed, for instance, did I feel today, right? At the end of the day, you can make a scale from 1 to 10. How relaxed did I feel? If you didn't feel relaxed at all, that'd be a 1. If you felt super relaxed, that'd be a 10. Usually, obviously, we're not at those extremes, but you might find that you want to focus on relaxation, but even though you're focusing on relaxation, you're like, oh, wow, I was really only like at a 3 or 4 today. And then you can, contemplate that fact that you were only at a 3 or 4 and not judge yourself harshly, but just sit with that. And if you sit with that and you're honest with yourself and you know about these law of attraction principles and you kind of let your imagination do the work and you almost vibe out to that, then the next day you're going to have a higher likelihood of getting that number up from a 3 or 4 to a 5 or 6 or 6 or 7 or 7 or 8. What you focus on and try to improve and are honest with yourself in terms of your progress and your fallbacks and your successes improves. You can fail your way to success in that way. That's a large part of the success indicator of W. Clement Stone. And it's just genius. It's so clear and it's just so true. I'm going to read a few things from The Success System That Never Fails. There's going to be a bunch of links in this video description of Stone stuff and some really interesting articles as well. But, Stone wrote in The Success System That Never Fails, these men used their success indicators for several purposes, one of which was to check their own activity for each day. A successful business organization considers it mandatory to inspect work performance with regularity, yet it's unusual for a person to inspect his own habits daily. But herein lies the secret of success. Don't expect what you don't inspect. I'm going to read that again. Don't expect what you don't inspect. It's very important. You can readily see that you will live up to your New Year's resolutions much more effectively if you check on yourself every day and keep trying. And, a little bit later on, he quotes his friend George Severance, who said, if you are an honest person, when you make a promise to another person, you will live up to it. But it's just as important that you be honest with yourself. So when you make a promise to yourself, live up to that promise. And don't make a promise in the first place unless you intend to fulfill it. That's what his friend George Severance said. And this is the point of daily inspection of our behavior and our habits in terms of what we really want. What we really want. We aren't doing this on little things where it's like, oh, I'd like to lose 5 pounds, but I don't really, care that much. This is like the things we really want in life. Like for me, I want a sense of relaxation and peace in my life. Even if I've got a lot going on, I still want that sense of relaxation and peace in my life. It's very important to me. The most important things. This is what we want to inspect our behavior in regards to these most important things on a daily basis, in my opinion. A little bit later, Stone writes, and this is very important, this paragraph is going to be the end of this video, and then you can just, explore the stuff yourself, as you want. Stone writes, the most potent tool you can have in the steady pursuit of success is a written record of your daily habits. Correctly kept, this record will be a mirror of every effort and every action of your day-to-day living. It will, with amazing vitality, enable you to redirect yourself. Following the principles and examples in this chapter, begin today to design your own personal success indicator. The ability to recognize what you want and then redirect yourself to it on a daily basis, which is, again, what Maxwell Maltz talks about so much in psychocybernetics. This is going to be more helpful than doing, just visualization exercises or stuff like that doesn't necessarily hit home for you all the time. I still encourage you to use those wonderful exercises that, people like Neville and Joseph Murphy talk about. But a success indicator keeps you honest with yourself, and there are very few things more important than that on a practical level.